One big through line is the power of narrative, and narratives shape everything. So it's baked into the products that we use and the services that we use. Framing work or jobs to be done inside of a business, it's a narrative. Like in the software development world, one of the kind of core units of work is called a user story. It's a simple statement that says, I as a user want to do this thing so that I can accomplish this goal. That's one very practical and specific way, like my life as a storyteller and unpacker of narratives and understander of narratives has translated, into this newer world that I'm operating in, which
we have a new episode of Get Curious for you. I'm your host, JL Palmer. Thank you for tuning in.
What if the goal of AI wasn't to make you more productive, but to give you your life back? Today's guest started out documenting people's lives as a filmmaker. He spent years learning how to see what was really happening beneath the surface. The systems, the patterns, the human moments that most people miss. And then he turned that lens on business. Chad Owen is the founder of Stimulus.io, chief of staff at Care Atlas, and someone who has been quietly building what he calls agentic operating systems. AI that runs the back end so you can show up fully for the front end. His mission, liberate business owners through AI so that work transforms into play. That's a phrase I want to sit with for a second. Work transforms into play because that's exactly what Get Curious is about. Curiosity as the thing that leads you somewhere better. And I think Chad and I are pointing at the same idea from different angles. In this conversation, we're going to talk about his journey from documentary filmmaker to AI builder, what he learned about seeing systems from watching people's lives, and what it actually looks like to hand something over to AI without losing what makes your work human. We'll get into the Lindy Agent Academy, Ship 30 for 30, and the question I'm most curious about. He walked away from social media intentionally 2 decades ago, but he's still on LinkedIn. What's the distinction? And we'll close with the question I think you'll carry with you. What's the one task AI should quietly take over?
Chad Owen, welcome to the Get Curious podcast.
Thanks, Jill. Excited to be here.
What would you like to start with first? You've got so much going on.
You can start with kind of my professional journey. I've been fortunate enough to reinvent myself a few times now, and I already appreciate kind of some of the curiosity in the questions that you were kind of asking in the intro. My background is in documentary storytelling and filmmaking. I thought I was going to be a pre-med student, but quickly bounced out of organic chemistry, found a film elective class, and then just fell in love. And that was kind of my 10-year journey as a documentary filmmaker. The thing I've learned about myself is I'm like a lifelong learner and have an insatiable curiosity. And so that was one of the main things that kind of drew me to you and your podcast. And so I just continued to follow that in all things. And after a while, as a filmmaker, there's always a distance between you and the subject and, whatever it is that you're inquiring into. And at some point I just wanted to get out from behind the camera and like be a doer and a builder. And so for some of the clients that I was working with, I started working with them as a consultant and doing kind of like typical management consulting things, organization design and, product management kind of consulting. And then that practice taught me a lot about human-centered design and rapid prototyping and, how to meet the needs of different users and customer stakeholders that businesses have. A little bit before ChatGPT landed in 2022, I stumbled across GPT 3.5 Turbo, which was kind of like a precursor to ChatGPT. And, you had to like be kind of an engineer and programmer to use it and go direct to the API and all this kind of engineering gobbledygook and jargon. But I struggled through that and found this really interesting new technology, and I just kind of went all in at that point in 2022, and my hypothesis has been ever since that when it comes to expressions of ideas in software, I don't think there's any limitations to our imagination now with the tools and capabilities that AI gives us, and I think that's just really exciting to me. That opens up the world of possibilities of what can be built, and so it's a little bit of a long story, but that's kind of been my journey over the last 20 years. I just realized talking with a friend that it's been almost 20 years to the date when I first struck out on my own as a documentary filmmaker, all the way back in July of 2026. Or sorry, in July of 2006. Wow. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Wow. Yeah, so you've been in the space for quite a long time. I mean, there's many of us that are having our first experiences just this year. And I know I did come across AI a little sooner than this year, but there are a lot of people who are just coming across it this year. And so
Mm-hmm.
2 decades have passed, and it's been around since the 70s. We know that, right? Um, but
Mm-hmm.
you must have seen much change in those years from when you first encountered it.
Yeah, well, to be clear, kind of my professional journey started 20 years ago. My kind of official journey with AI was the spring of 2022. Um, and so it's been about 4 years since I've been working really closely, every day with AI. The thing that I've noticed most is just that the acceleration of change, or change is accelerating. So it's not just that, oh yeah, things are changing every day. It's just things are changing more and at a faster pace
Yeah.
every day. So what took, you know, OpenAI a year to kind of ship a new feature and capability into ChatGPT, they're doing in a matter of like days now. So compressing 300 days of work down into just a day or two. That's the type of kind of compression of work that's happening now with AI. So that I think that's just the biggest change is the pace of change is increasing so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, I do realize that you were talking about the 2 decades of being in filmmaking instead of AI. I apologize there. The systems that you were learning and what you were watching going on with people's lives, do you see an overlap with filmmaking and AI?
Yeah, I think one big through line is the power of narrative. As a filmmaker, it was directed at telling stories. And so the importance of how we as humans, create narrative, how it's, I think, baked into our DNA, just being storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
If you just think about kind of your own internal monologue, like you kind of narrate your own life as if you're this, protagonist of your own story. And I think that's why it's so compelling, narratives and storytelling, because it's like it kind of mirrors our own internal experience. And narratives shape everything. So it's
Mm-hmm.
baked into the products that we use and the services that we use. I think, framing work or jobs to be done inside of a business, it's a narrative. Like in the software development world, one of the kind of core units of work is called a user story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a simple statement that says, okay, so me as a ChatGPT subscriber wants ChatGPT to remember what I talked to it about yesterday, because I want to be able to, give it things to remember and kind of have like this little second brain. So like that's a user story. I, as a user, want to do this thing so that I can accomplish this goal. That's one very practical and specific way. Like my life as a storyteller and unpacker of narratives and understander of narratives has translated, into this newer world that I'm operating in, which is part software development engineer, uh, part product designer and process consultant, and kind of like AI whisperer or concierge for many business owners and professionals.
So, have you had much experience with this new Boardman that's been taking over LinkedIn?
I'm sorry, what are you referring to? I don't know that I
It's
know.
called Boardman.
No, I have no idea.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we'll have to introduce you to it because I think you could find it very insightful. It's actually using introductions as a way to start basically its interface with a user, for example, me, and it'll introduce me to someone, for example, like you, and it'll put context around it. And then I get, basically really notes about who it is that I'm going to be learning about, and then I'll get, a debrief actually after a meeting, even if the AI attends the meeting.
Mm,
Really interesting. I'd like your feedback on it when you get a chance to have a look at it. Um,
sure,
uh,
yeah, send me a link.
yeah, I'm probably a little bit surprised it hasn't actually shown up in your space, but um, that makes sense. Like if you don't spend a lot of time on social media, because it is all over LinkedIn right now.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it in the intro. Yeah, we can get into to social media eventually if you'd like.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I was just wondering, like, because I mean, your focus is really, if I'm right, if I did my homework correctly, is that, with the AI's role could really potentially be the one, it takes away the tasks so that we can, have more of our life back and go and play. And I have found that this this agent, or for lack of a better term, has done that for me in some regards, like
Mm, mm,
preparations for meetings and follow-ups, and I can dictate to it and it'll send me an email draft and all sorts of things. That definitely transforming the way we go about things.
hmm. Yeah, I want to unpack a few things that you said there and maybe clarify my own thoughts and opinions. One of the things that AI can do is take some or even all of the menial work off your plate. But my philosophy isn't that you should just, you know, work and then step out of work to play. My philosophy is that work should be playful. And so um, there's a lot of ways in which we can leverage AI to, yes, the things that drain your energy, take a lot of time, um, is drudge work. AI can handle behind the scenes for you. But then I also think there's ways you can use AI to make your work more playful in the act of doing it. And so uh, it's kind of a yes and. It's both offloading and automating a lot of the work that you don't want to do, and then really leaning into your unique ability, which is I think kind of where you can be most playful in your professional life and work. Um, and I think you can use AI in that aspect too, to be more joyful and playful.
I love that because I don't really want to do work that I don't consider play. Like
Mm,
it's not. I believe we are here on this planet to play, and how we go about that is a matter of in more so on how you follow your curiosity. And a lot of us
hmm.
maybe don't learn. When we were younger, we could do it, but then maybe something happened as we were growing up, and we moved away from it for whatever reason,
Hmm.
maybe due to parental fears. I mean, there could be a myriad of reasons why. But I think getting back to being curious in all things does give us that ability to have more play in our workspace, and
Hmm.
be at work and play at the same time. And I love that mindset, that and the framing that you gave that. So that's wonderful. When did you really first realize that work could feel like play? When do you think that came up for you?
I don't know that I've ever thought it couldn't be.
Yeah,
Um, Many people. It, it's a great debate of whether you should follow your passions and make your passion your work, or say no, don't kill your passion by making it work.
yeah,
Um, I think that there's just this kind of like funny thing that's been with me for as long as I can remember. I'm left-handed, and there's just like this voice in the back of my head that always says go left. So like my kind of personal mantra is go left, and that go left is like there's a lot of meaning behind that, but it's just like for me that phrase go left means like follow the curiosity. What is the thing to be learned? How can you make this playful and interactive? So that's kind of my shorthand for all of this is go left. Um, and I was just so interested in narrative and the power of documentary filmmaking and kind of how we represent actuality in this creative medium. And I graduated from school and I was like, okay, like I just I'm gonna make a career of this. I'm gonna be a professional. So I bought a camera and I started soliciting work from clients and made the creation of th- that creative studio just my work, and I figured it out, and I've been very fortunate to continue to do that all along the way, where through the different kind of phases I talked about earlier, finding something else that I really wanted to dive deep into, learning as much as I could about it, and figuring out how to create a business out of that. So for me, I don't think I've ever not approached it as something that couldn't be playful.
That's a wonderful way to put it. I think I heard somewhere that you're from Brooklyn, are you? Or you're in Brooklyn?
I lived in Brooklyn for a decade. I'm originally from Texas, so I think I can properly call myself a New Yorker. I currently live in the Catskill Mountains, about 2 hours north of New York City. Um, and I mean, one of the main reasons that we made that move was because we love the outdoors, and so being able to be in nature and also work at the same time. Fortunate enough to work fully remote. It's just one of those ways I think that I can live out that playful expression of work. I can just step outside and work.
Nature is so giving.
Hmm.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the Lindy Agent Academy?
Sure, that was a part of my journey in learning as much as I could about AI agents and exploring all of the different platforms. So, folks might be familiar with tools like ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, and Anthropic's Claude AIs. I mean, there's so many more. Um, but another one that is out there is Lindy, and created by Flo Crivello, who I think is just a really interesting um, founder and CEO in the space, taking a bit of a different tack to some of the other AI providers. But in the vein of play and gamification, they had these really great workshops where they would kind of take people through how to use their agent building platform, and one of them was like this 30-day challenge to build an agent from scratch. And so I signed up for the competition and had a client project that I could bring as something to build, and just dove headfirst into that, immersed myself into the tool and the platform, really tried to find the best way to approach solving this client's particular workflow challenge. And there was like a whole demo day at the end where everyone submitted their agents. There's probably, I don't know, close to 100 participants. They chose the top five, and then we had a demo day, and then everyone voted on the top agent, and mine just happened to win.
And this surprised you?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm driven to succeed. I wouldn't say I'm hyper competitive. I mean, it is nice to win. Um, I'm following the U.S. Soccer team in the World Cup, and it was a little disappointing for us to not win all three matches in group play. But we were already on our way through. But anyways, the um, maybe I wasn't maybe surprised, but well, I wasn't surprised by winning, but I was surprised at how quickly I was able to take a really big client problem and solve it with AI. I mean, in truth, it took me less than 30 days to kind of get it working, and that was ages ago now. That was in October of last year, so probably 7 months ago. And that was my biggest learning was, I mean, where I'm at today is that I can spend 45 minutes to an hour with a client and begin to solve in the moment in that call with clients many of their challenges by setting up AI with them on that call. So I've gone from taking a few years to it took me 30 days in October 7 months ago, and now it's taking me less than an hour to solve those issues and challenges for clients.
Wow. So you're learning almost faster than AI is evolving.
Or it's evolving faster than I'm able to keep up, I think actually is how I would put it.
It just sounded like it was just such a quick period of time that you're ahead of the game so much.
Well, it just comes with I think if people, well, my own approach to AI, I know there's a lot of fear
Mhm.
and uncertainty. Um, I think for me, that emotion is expressed as excitement. So it's like fear and excitement are kind of close on the emotional wheel. And some people might misunderstand excitement for fear or for vice versa. But for me, like you can probably see, I'm getting a little bit more animated, and excited about talking about AI. Um, yeah, so I think if people can try to transform that fear into a little bit of excitement or try to draw some excitement out in that, then, as I said before, there's nothing I don't think that you can't create uh, when it comes to digital ideas, products, software creations with AI today.
Yeah, I think what I'm understanding is that a lot of the fears come around, the for lack of like a maternal compass or a morality and a personal harm kind of a frame where people are concerned
Mm-hmm.
that AI is going to be instructed to do something or it'll instruct itself to do something. I think that's yeah, with your list, it depends on what you listen to, right? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, if you're not listening to both sides of it, you're just kind of a little narrow focused, you know.
Yeah, I think practically it's a tool, and humans um, millennia ago figured out how to build and use tools for harm and for good.
Mhm.
And that's the nature of, I think, our human existence is a tool can be used for good or for harm. Fire is great, but it's also one of the most destructive forces on Earth, right? So when we learned how to wield fire, it's kind of why like so many mythical stories, revolve around humans being gifted these either natural or supernatural tools, and then they kind of run amok. Everything from like Fantasia's, um, the Mickey sorcerer. Art of Fantasia, I think, is kind of a perfectly apt, animated metaphor for kind of where we are with AI. It's like if not used in the right way, it can definitely get out of hand, but it's still powerful nonetheless.
Yeah, like the two most powerful things you mentioned, like fire, definitely fire and water, right? So
Mm-hmm.
very necessary and also very destructive in the
Mm-hmm.
wrong
Mm-hmm.
hands. Yeah. So, podcasting, did you have your own podcast, or were you a co-host, or how did that? What was that experience, and why aren't you podcasting
Yeah,
anymore?
the recurring theme is that, yeah, I go through these phases in life and go really deep in one area, and then I'll come up for air and see something else, and then I'll go there and go deep in that. Um, a close collaborator of mine, kind of at the end of my filmmaking career and the beginning of my consulting career, Mike Parsons, um, incredible design thinker and um, just kind of masterful creative that was a wonderful mentor to me for many years. We just, after a client project, we're working together. we're having a drink and we just kind of decided that we should podcast. He's based in Sydney, Australia, and I'm based in the States. And so it was partly an excuse for us to stay connected and grow our relationship. And the premise of the podcast was also a way for us to stay curious and to learn from some of the best minds out there. So it's called the Moonshots Podcast.
Yeah.
It still persists to this day. Mike is still the co-host, and another friend of mine, Mark Pearson Freeland, is his co-host. They've taken that podcast, even beyond what Mike and I originally imagined. But the premise was we would go out and see what some of the greatest thinkers and writers in the world and builders were doing. So going to original sources like interviews, TED Talks. I read so many books
Mhm.
and distilling that insight and knowledge in conversational format between the two of us. And, we were just really delighted to see the reactions in the audience that we were able to grow, even from the beginning.
I caught a little bit of a co-hosting interview that the two of you did in Bucharest.
Yes, that was where one of our clients was based, and we were able to bring on some really interesting, fun people. My travels through work, been fortunate to work with Mike specifically in New York City and in San Francisco, in Bucharest, Romania, in Amsterdam, and in Sydney, in Australia as well. So yeah, that was definitely a fun period for me. I think the podcast was maybe from 2017 to 2019, 2020, at least my stint. And then, like I said, he's continued on for another 6 years with the podcast.
Yeah. So now it's just the guesting for you then, eh? No more co-hosting, no more.
But it's funny you ask. I'm actually here at a co-working space with my dad. He's visiting. He's visiting for the weekend, and I was inspired just by this podcast. Booking on my calendar to be like, you know what, I should do a podcast with him. He's like a whole other side tangent that I won't go into, but he's an emergency room doctor, has been for 45 years. He's founded 3 healthcare technology companies. It's like he just has a really interesting story, and so I would love to interview him and make that available for him and the company. But I'm tempted, JL, to get back into it. I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's why I've loved connecting with other podcast hosts, and so I'm tempted. Is what I'll say.
Well, and it's the production side that's probably the biggest challenge, right? I mean, it's okay to have conversations, but it's then producing them and getting them out there. So,
Not for me personally. I actually have a podcasting agent that handles practically everything for me.
oh,
And
and
it's a tool that I've actually been building for clients as well. I think for me, it's just like it's a lot of energy. I feel like to truly try and connect with someone, not just give the same answer every time and tell the same story every time.
or riddle up
And
questions. Yeah.
yeah, and I'll be perfectly honest, like I'm really great at starting things, and being consistent and reliable and finishing things is not something that's my strong suit.
That's the pitfall of curiosity, I find, because I'm
Hmm.
the same. I'm the same. Like,
Yeah,
there's a room full of curiosity here that needs to be finished. To
yeah.
tell you, yeah, for sure.
So
Um,
maybe the solution isn't just to do one podcast, but it's just to keep starting new podcasts. Whenever
well, there's
whenever
one way to
the
do
curiosity
that.
strikes.
Yeah. But so the agent that you built, tell us about this because are you selling it to other podcasters? What are you doing?
So many agents. I
What
like
is a
to.
podcaster?
Yeah, my own personal approach is to treat AI agents. I like to anthropomorphize them. I like to treat them as if they're a teammate, collaborator, and another person, an individual. Understanding that they are not actually a human being, or another person. But I think, again, it's just we're hardwired to be social creatures. And so I think like just the human AI interface is so much easier from a user experience if you treat it as if it's like a sentient intelligence. Like, so maybe it's not like uh, AGI or anything like that. Artificial general intelligent, like the super, the singularity. But like, I think that there is a lot of intelligence there. So that's my own personal approach, is to treat it like a teammate and collaborator. But all that is to say, I like to give my agents names, and I'm a fan of alliteration. So I've called this one Polly Podcaster.
I love it.
Um, and I think it's also helpful because it's really clear like what Polly does. She's helping me with everything podcasting. So um, she's been adapted to other use cases. Like, but for me personally, it's handling everything to find shows that I should be on that resonate, with me and subject matters, that I think I could engage in interesting conversation with. It helps me analyze previous shows. It summarizes them. It points me to the right ones to listen to ahead of time. A lot of the research that you were talking about with this thing on LinkedIn, you were saying, handles the scheduling and the booking, kind of, pushes them back to back. So I can kind of, schedule that time, and it handles all of that for me. For other customers, like maybe someone like yourself, it can help them manage the bookings and kind of screen people, and even go out and research and find folks that would be good guests to go out and pitch for. And then one of the kind of bleeding edge parts of it is to have Polly help with the post production side of things. So doing things like transcribing the episodes, doing automatic editing, out of the ums and the ahs and the silent parts. So, always kind of trying to push things further and further. Um, Really just like if I have a need or a client has a need, just, changing and adapting it to serve that need, seeing if it works. And if it doesn't, revert back or try something different. But Poly Podcaster is one of the more recent, newer agents that I've built that I've been having a lot of fun working with.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what you're sharing is very interesting to me, and it would be interesting to a lot of podcasters, I would think. Are you sharing it with others, or are you keeping it to yourself?
I I love to share freely. Um, my so it in that vein, like if you go to my website, stimulus.io,
Yeah.
you'll be interacting with my agent, and it'll kind of be a little curious about you and your business and what you do, and give you a prompt for a chief of staff agent that you can just copy and paste into any of your AI tools, as kind of like the first thing that I recommend people getting started with. And as far as agents for clients, I've probably built over 150 different kinds of agents for different customers. And so I have a really big bank that I can go to and begin to rework and customize for folks. But I'm creating new ones. I wouldn't say every day now, but certainly every week. There's new agents that I'm creating because there's new use cases, there's new business challenges to be solved, there's new personal challenges to be solved, or just imaginations that I have, or inklings of things that I've just thought of.
It just sounds fascinating. It does sound fascinating. I could see that it's just like another new toy box every day.
I think maybe a year or two ago, but it's kind of the zeitgeist has changed a little bit. Like people were talking about prompting as like casting spells. I do think that like it still feels like that to me. I can be a magician or a mage, that's casting these spells and creating these things and beings. Like I said, Mickey and in Fantasia is kind of like what I feel like sometimes. It can truly be magical, in the best of ways.
Well, I know that I have felt just in my own experience. I've done brainstorming sessions with this boardie that I mentioned to you, but I've also used ChatGPT, and I've used Google AI, not specifically Gemini, but just the prompt on Google. And, I've created complete articles. And,
Hmm.
some of it to me is like I'm going, well, I know I had the idea and I know I asked it to formulate different things and I prompted it through everything. But at the same time, it's like the end result is not all mine. It's like, and it doesn't feel like, honestly, I could have done it to the same caliber without the co-creation that AI,
Hmm.
and assistance has given. And
Hmm.
one night I actually was lying awake going, how there's a part of this that doesn't sit authentically with me. It's like, okay, that's not all mine. It doesn't feel like it's all mine. You know,
Hmm.
you know what I mean about that?
What? Well, yeah. What about that makes you uncomfortable?
Um, I don't even know 100%. It
Hmm.
was just one of those feelings like, uh, I'm not a great writer.
Mm.
So what has been created for an article definitely looks levels and levels above what I could put on paper on my own.
Hmm.
So the image, I guess, that's being put out there with about me with the content that's presented,
Hmm.
maybe is like, um, and I don't think it even falls in the imposter phenomenon. I don't like the word syndrome around that, but I don't think it even
Hmm.
falls around the imposter phenomenon. It's like more of a, well, okay, I'm relying on this and I'm getting to this caliber of content with it, and if ever it's not available, I cannot deliver the same quality, the same quantity. All of
Yeah.
this is like, I am not capable of this without it. Like my show notes are, um, absolutely pulling points out of transcripts and putting it
Hmm.
in article format. Like I couldn't pull the way it pulls, and I
Hmm.
just give it the prompts and it goes and gets everything, puts
Hmm.
it in the right place, So
Yeah. But like we wrote and published before computers, right? And before Google. Um, but now people don't think, oh, you know, I'm no good because I'm using a computer, or I'm no good because I'm using Google. So I think it's just, it's kind of an evolution of along those lines. Um,
I know you're in
I think,
filmmaking. You probably felt the pushback too, with like writers and actors, and you probably felt that in that space. Or
well,
was
I kind of I got out of it kind of before AI came on to the scene.
okay.
For me personally, if you're open and transparent about your use or not of I feel like for me that's really all that's necessary is that clear delineation and disclosure. Where I get really uncomfortable and what I advise folks to steer away from is trying to pass off things that are solely AI or mostly AI as your own sole creation. Um, as a filmmaker, I would never just say, "Oh yeah, like this, this was my act of creation and I'm the genesis of all of it." Every single project involves so many collaborators and it's the collective sum of all of that work together. And I think a mindset shift that people need to go through is like, well, AI is just another one of those collaborators, another kind of collaborative intelligence. And as long as we acknowledge it and say, yes, like this was, created in collaboration with, I think just that subtle mindset shift can help people kind of maybe push past some of that imposter phenomenon you were talking about.
Yeah, well, I did definitely put it on a couple of my articles that went out on. I use Substack for
Hmm.
a lot of stuff, and it does podcast production too now. So there's interesting tools there, and um, so I did co-created with Google AI, and now I'm going to go back through all my show notes and do the same.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think people should be embarrassed to admit it. I think um, it just creates a lot of awkwardness when people don't acknowledge it, right? It's just like there's this uh I don't know why this image came into my head, but like there's I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So like there's this big stinky Wookiee over here that like no like Sasquatch that's nobody acknowledging. It's like in the room, but like it's there and you know it. You know, it's like you see a post or an article that is clearly written by AI and someone's passing it off as their own and you're like, what in the world is that person thinking that they're doing? But if you just like acknowledge it and you give that attribution, I think, you know, we could kind of cut through a lot of um, that inauthentic, uh, nature. I think of so much content creation today.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Now there's a couple of different topics I want to make sure that we cover, and
Hmm.
I don't want it to be too scripted because I really like the conversation that we're having. It feels
Hmm.
great just the way we're talking, but definitely wanted to ask you about the ship 30 for 30 and what it was shipping daily taught you about creative work. What is that all about?
It's funny. You're pulling out like literally the only things I've ever posted on LinkedIn. So I'm having to like transport myself back.
Oh,
Uh, the that was just again kind of another challenge that I signed up for because I knew it would stretch myself, similar to the ship an agent in 30 days. For myself personally, I do need external accountability to keep me focused. So you and I, our curiosity is taking us all over the place. Having some public accountability is really helpful for me. It's a blessing and curse working for myself as long as I have is, I can direct my work, but I'm the person that's directing my work. Sometimes we can be our own worst boss.
yeah.
Um, I did not achieve 30 posts in 30 days, but I
Oh,
stuck to it, I believe, for about 10 or 12 days. Um, I think the biggest learning for me there was I didn't need to do it for 30 days to find my voice. I think that's what I was really trying to do was find my written voice. So much of my content, up to that point had been films, videos, and there was just a lack of comfort with me reading my own writing and feeling like it did or didn't reflect me and who I was.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think going through a couple of weeks of that process taught me that okay, it didn't take me a whole lot of time to get there to find my voice and kind of what I think my creative angle and perspective was. Um, and to be perfectly honest, the whole like posting on social aspect of that is what made me bounce. I was just like it. It was requiring me to be on social media and engage, and that's something that I decided 20 years ago that's just not something that I want to do.
Mm-hmm. And is it the engagement part of social media, or is it actually just the deciding what to post? Like, because you can get on social media and just have the conversations and not post anything.
I don't want to like step on a soapbox or get on a high horse here, so
Oh,
I'm
that's okay.
I'm choosing my words carefully. Social media is another tool like AI, and I believe that the tools we use should be in service to us and our people, our customers, our clients, the world. And if it's not serving you, then you should think about putting that tool down. Um, I don't have to tell you about all the controversy surrounding social media today. I think it's a healthy conversation to have. What is its purpose? Who is it
Mm-hmm.
serving? Um, is it a net good for the world, society, your community, your family, your business? All of those. Um, and I just decided 20 years ago, once I graduated from college, that I'd used it when I was in college. I was on Facebook. I graduated and I just didn't really have a use for it. And I would say maybe every couple of years I'll jump on and try something. Like when Threads came out from Meta, I was like, oh okay, like they're trying to do something that's not Twitter. I got on it for a day and I was like, nope, not for me. Never really got on Instagram. I don't know. It's just for me personally, it's just not a tool I feel like that can or will serve me. So it's just something that I don't use.
So is it that LinkedIn serves on the in the professional space, and that's why you stay there, or why keep LinkedIn?
Um, I mean, it's a great question. I feel like maybe a limiting belief of mine is that I wouldn't appear professional to potential clients if I didn't have a LinkedIn profile. I think that's why that one has kind of remained. But I mean, I think the literally the only two posts I've ever posted on LinkedIn were the two that you mentioned, the 30-day agent challenge and the ship 30 for 30. Um, yeah, so I think that's primarily it. Is like, I've also just been lazy and haven't had a website forever. Now that I do have a website, I maybe feel a little bit more comfortable potentially getting rid of my LinkedIn profile. But yeah, it's just I think you do need to be discoverable on the web if you're a professional working out on your own, especially like as a solopreneur. But your line of questioning is actually making me seriously contemplate getting rid of my LinkedIn and just going all in on my own website. For as far as how people can get in touch with me, I think if you Google Chad Owen, it pulls up maybe like a Welsh rugby player. That's like the only other Chad Owen out there in the world.
I was going to say, it makes it really hard to be curious about you and do some homework as a podcaster because all I had to go on was your pod manager profile, right? And so it
Yeah.
was like, well, here we go. But when I did start, looking around, I mean, there's, I have a graphic for my image, and there's a very good reason behind that. So there's a lot to be said about, there's good sides to being visible, and there's bad sides to being
Hmm.
visible, and it's, and if you feel more comfortable with, I mean, even your website doesn't really show or tell anything specifically about you.
Hmm.
So you really do have to, engage with Chad to get to know about Chad.
Maybe that's part of it, like a little bit of the um so I think one of the things I've taken from being a student of narrative is like the mystery and the mystique around the mystery is very powerful. So there's a knowledge or an information gap, and your innate curiosity wants to close it. So it's like, who is Chad? What does he do or what has he done? Which then hopefully is kind of a maybe a more playful way to engage with folks, as opposed to me going out and blasting 1,000 connection requests on LinkedIn and trying to come up with posts that might engage folks. So that's maybe how I approach it.
No, I love it. Yeah. I'm interested to see what you do going forward. If you do go, without LinkedIn, or if you do go ahead and do a podcast with your dad, and how do we help listeners find out more about you and more about what you have to offer, being that you don't have a lot of content out there online for them to go to? How do we connect with you? How do we be
Sure. Well,
more?
I've given you a direct line, so you can go to my website, stimulus.io. There's an agent there that knows my status, so it will know if I'm online or not. And if you chat with it, kind of go back and forth with it, answer a couple of questions, you'll see like a little status indicator, and it'll be like, oh, Chad's online. Would you like to ping him? And then it'll actually ping me on my phone in my own Slack. It'll say, hey, someone wants to engage with you on the website, and then I can chat with you straight from my phone when you're on the website. That's probably the best way to get in touch. And as I mentioned, if you chat with it, it will give you a copy and pastable prompt for your own chief of staff agent that you can copy and paste into any of the AI tools. And you can use that personally or professionally, but um, the concept there with the chief of staff is just like a right hand person that can learn about you and your workflows and your day to day routines and activities, and then begin to understand that in a way where it will begin to say, oh, hey, like maybe I could manage your inbox for podcast, guest requests, or I could manage your calendar, or I could manage your inbox, or it'll begin to identify those areas of the business where you're spending a lot of time and it's draining your energy, and begin to take some of those things off your plate. So yeah, I would just say go to the website, engage with the agent, and who knows, maybe we'll be chatting to one another from the website.
For people who don't know, the website is really words on a black screen, and so you really do have to take a look at it. It's not like your pop-up business card for traditional websites, right? So when somebody comes to the site, it's got a stream of narrative, and there's the cursor, like back in the DOS days, right? Where you're looking, that's where you type, folks.
Yeah. Well, so this was an idea I had after doing a podcast episode with someone where I was like, you know what, I want to kind of totally flip the script in what my website was. And so I spend most of my day in a Claude Code terminal, just going back and forth with Claude Code, building, having conversations with it, creating content with it. And so I wanted the website to kind of be a reflection of me and my day-to-day work. So the website kind of mimics as if you're stepping directly into my own Claude Code terminal, chatting with a Claude AI like I am. So that was my kind of playful expression of how the website could be. That's maybe a little bit different from other experiences.
Yeah. It just, unless you have to really pay attention when you get there to figure out, where you actually engage.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really important to make sure that, folks that are going to be more curious about you and follow after they listen to this episode and to find out more details about you, to know, this is where you go, this is how it goes. Don't be too taken back by it, because
it's a real chatbot. Yeah, it's a real chatbot. You can chat to it, and it'll ping and connect you to me if I'm online and available.
Well, there we go. It's thinking. So maybe it has sent you a message. I love this. Okay.
I'll see, JL. I'll see if it pops up on my phone.
Okay. So I'm definitely gonna add the website in the show notes, and there will be a disclaimer here. AI is going to help me do a bunch of wonderful show notes and an article, and this will go out as a premiere. So if you're not familiar with that, you can actually engage with your own show as it is live, and you can comment back and forth with folks on YouTube if you'd like. And so,
great. Yeah, I might jump in and respond if there's any interesting comments.
Looking forward to it. So I'll let you know when the date is that it's going to premiere. But the one question I wanted to close with is, what's one task AI should quietly take over?
There's not a universal one that I can think of off the top of my head, but get a sheet of paper, a Post-it note, and write down at least 10 things that you do on a day-to-day basis that is a huge drain of your energy and takes a lot of your time. So it'll really just kind of depend on kind of your job or your work. But for some folks, it's just like managing their own kind of household. Like, oh gosh, like scheduling the kids and camps and everything is it's too much for me. And it's drudgery, and it takes a lot of time and drains my energy. So that might be what's top of mind for them. Some people have 25,000 unread emails in their inbox, and that's the thing they've been procrastinating on for years. But that's the first activity I do with everybody. Make a list of 10 things. What's the most draining on your energy? What takes the most time? We kind of rank, order, prioritize those, and we just go down that list and attack them with different AIs and agents that can help remove those things, so that time can be freed up for the things that give you joy and are more playful, and the things that give you energy instead of draining it.
That's wonderful. Is there anything else at all you would like to share with listeners today?
Figure out kind of like what the smallest experiment or game you can play with AI is that maybe has, a small blast radius. And what I mean by blast radius is like, it's not going to like email your list of 30,000 email subscribers or post an AI generated video to your TikTok or YouTube shorts, but pick something that off that list that you could spend maybe an hour or two to learn how this new tool AI can serve you, or maybe it's not a good fit to serve you in that way. Like I said, I am making myself available to you through my website, and would be happy to book a 45-minute or hour-long call, just to walk through your day-to-day activities and see how AI might help.
Okay, well, you get on the website and talk to Chad's chief of staff, and he'll put it all arranged for you.
Exactly.
It's been wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, Jill. This is really my pleasure. Great conversation.
These conversations are an absolute joy to have, and I hope you get as much out of them as I do. If you're catching this on YouTube or any other platform, check the show notes, because there are links to resources and articles and all kinds of things to add value on top of this conversation. Your time is so valuable. Thank you for spending it enjoying this show.